Okay, I want to welcome everybody to this webinar. This is the first of a three-part series that LaSalle is offering on the topic of LinkedIn. And we're promoting this to our alumni and grad students. My name is Deborah Franke. I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Career Programs here in the Alumni Office at LaSalle University. And you can see my contact information there. My role here is to support our alumni in their career development, and that includes providing resources like these webinars on LinkedIn. The Career Committee of the Alumni Association Board of Directors has chosen the topic for the next 2 years of owning your career. And I believe some of you attended our kickoff event last month, and so we're going to be doing a combination of live events, in-person events, as well as virtual events like this webinar throughout the next 2 years on the topic of owning your career. So I wanted to let you know that just before we started today, I posted this on the homepage of my LinkedIn account. And basically, I'm letting the world know that I'm doing a webinar today with you all. And I asked anybody who noticed my post there just what kind of insights or advice they might have on the topics we're covering today. So at the end of our time today, we're going to go and see if we got any responses to that. So today we are going to focus on these areas. What is LinkedIn? Why is it important? We're going to talk about first level connections, LinkedIn groups, how to do different kinds of searches, and then how to request a conversation on LinkedIn. So yeah, LinkedIn's a great tool for meeting people, connecting with people, but very often you want to take that conversation offline, as it were, and continue it either by phone or in person. And so that's what that last item there is. All right, so now's when I want to hear from some of you. Don't be bashful. So I have a virtual microphone and I'm putting it in front of your mouth. And I stopped you on the street and I asked you, what is LinkedIn? So what would you tell me? Let's hear from a couple of you.
I guess my suggestion or my answer would probably be it's a business network or professionals network.
Okay. So a couple keywords there, the idea of network and business or professional. Okay, great. Who wants to add to that? Okay, social media for business networking. So it is a social media site. Again, those keywords, business and networking. Anybody want to add anything else?
I think it's also a venue for sharing ideas and articles and such.
Okay. So a lot of people tend to think of LinkedIn, oh, that's just when I'm looking for a job. But it is much more than that. And I hope today and the other two sessions in this series, you'll really get a sense of just all that LinkedIn can be and how powerful it is. And certainly true that it's a place for sharing ideas. I think it's a really great resource among other resources for keeping up with kind of what are the hot topics, what are the issues in your industry, in your field, in your profession. From Ron, LinkedIn's a networking site for anyone in the workforce, but it feels like a platform for people who like to talk and make money off people looking for change in their careers. Yes, it can feel that way sometimes, but again, Ron, it can be so much more than that. It's a way to promote yourself and your work, exactly. And it's great for training. So Denise, yes, LinkedIn bought Lynda, I believe it is, L-Y-N-D-A. And so there's a whole area of LinkedIn that provides ongoing training. And so you took advanced Excel course and SQL course. That's really, really great. And thanks for that reminder. And it can be used for job searching. And in fact, part 3 of this LinkedIn series is specifically going to look at using LinkedIn in your job search. So it can be used for that, definitely. Ron, you're mentioning LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. Indeed it is. And towards the end today, when we looked at settings, we're going to look at something very clearly, an integration between the two, which some of you may not be thrilled to learn about. Okay, so LinkedIn it's a professional networking site, and it allows you to develop a personal online brand. So I think, Leslie, when you said a way to promote yourself and your work, so that idea of how do you want to be known as a professional? What do you want people to know you for? That's that personal online brand. Maybe you've read articles or attended webinars or presentations on branding. In the old days, people say, oh, that we used to just call that your reputation. Yeah, it's who or how you want to be known as a professional. Now, if somebody does a Google search on your name, one of the first results that's going to show them is your LinkedIn profile. And you have complete control over what shows up in that profile. So in that sense, you have considerable control over what gets communicated about who you are as a professional. It allows you to build knowledge you need to achieve your goals. And I think that goes back to the comment about a place to learn about things in your field. And then definitely to find people in your field or your desired field through mutual professional development. So it's a great tool for people who are considering a career transition, finding people who are doing the kind of work that you think you might be interested in doing, and then having conversations with them. Anybody want to add anything to this? What did I leave out? I can't be that good. All right. So let's see here. Okay. So I'd like to hear from you. How are you currently using LinkedIn? Feel free to speak up with your microphone unmuted or type into the chat box. How are you currently using it?
So Deborah, it's Christine. I use LinkedIn to expand my network, both from a personal growth perspective as well as from an industry perspective. Mm-hmm. I feel like people that have less experience in their fields use it sometimes to mine for jobs or to look for mentors. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I use it also as a news source. So people that I am linked with tend to have the same ideas or interests in the same type of industry things. And so I rely on them to send articles my way so that I can take a look at what they're promoting and or interested in.
Okay. Thanks, Christine. Yeah. Who else? How are you currently using LinkedIn? A lot of people will say that they use it to keep connected to or in touch with people that they've met or they've worked with. Also talking about, learning about others that are further along in their career. Finding alumni in companies that interest you. So, and we'll talk today about how to do that. So all those and more. Okay, next question. Let's go ahead and have you type in the chat box. It can be a word, a phrase, a sentence, whatever you like. What would you like to use LinkedIn for? Go ahead and type in the chat box there. Okay. Getting the pulse of hiring managers. Use it to connect with previous coworkers. Yep. Finding the next phase of my career. So making the connected to job search or career transition. For contacting hiring managers, for networking and job search. To share information about my work and projects. Yeah. So to share with other professionals what you're doing, the interesting things that you're working on. Okay. So I think what we're seeing is there's a variety of goals that you each have for LinkedIn at this time. And in our next session, we talk about the profile. One of the key questions is going to be what your goal is at this stage in your career for your LinkedIn profile. We can ask more broadly, what is your goal or goals at this stage in your career for engagement on LinkedIn? And that's an important question for you to be able to answer, because then that guides the kind of engagement that you're going to be doing on LinkedIn. Okay, let's see. Good to know if my profile shows my personal brand. So we'll definitely talk about that in the next session. Sorry. Okay. So LinkedIn, really important in terms of building up your network on LinkedIn. And primarily you're going to do that through the tools of connections and groups as well as engagement. So let me talk a little bit about the idea of connections. So on other social media, you have friends. On LinkedIn, you have connections. Okay, so you are Mr. or Ms. Purple here in the middle. You are the center of your universe. You've always suspected it, but now it's been confirmed for you. And you have first level connections. Those are the red people. And those might be people you've invited to connect with you, or people that have invited you to connect with them. And you said yes, and now you're connected. But each of those red people, they have their first level connections, right? And so all of those become your second levels. Okay, let's do our math here. If you're connected to 100 people, and each of them is connected to 100, how many do you have? How many first and second levels do you have? You didn't know you were going to get a pop quiz today, did you? Anybody want to take a guess? You're connected to 100. Each of those is connected to 100. How many first and second levels? 10,000. So it's actually 10,000 second levels. A lot. Plus those 100 first levels. So your network, just by being connected to 100 people, all of whom are connected to 100, is 10,100, exactly. And so right away, you begin to see the power of LinkedIn. It's not just about your first levels, but also about who they are connected to. Now, each of your second levels is connected to people. Those are your third levels. When you do a search, you'll often see a 1, a 2, or 3 next to someone's name. This is what this means. If you see 3+, that means third and beyond, right? So somebody who's a 20th level connection, so on and so forth. Ron, your comment, the quality of the connection matters. That's right. Just having the connection doesn't mean much. So that is true. So just to say I'm connected to 10 people or 10,000 people, it's what you're doing with those 10 or 10,000 and how you're engaging on LinkedIn with them and with others. Second levels, when you do a search and you find a second level connection, that means that you've got somebody in common. There's someone that person is connected to that you're also connected to. And so it's taking advantage of that, and I don't mean that in any negative or using people way, but just recognizing that mutual connection. And we don't talk about it in this session. We'll talk about it definitely in the third session. How do you reach out to those second level connections? Okay, any questions on this before we move on and talk briefly about groups? Okay, so LinkedIn groups, well, they're a group. They're a bunch of people who have some shared interests. And we're going to look at, in a moment, at what those different shared interests might be. But it's sort of a captive audience. If you find a LinkedIn group of people who have the same interests you do, wow, now you've taken all of LinkedIn, okay, millions of people, and now you're in a group of 100 or 10,000 who all have that shared interest. And so groups can be a really, really effective way of finding people who are interested in the same things that you are. All right, so now I am going to go to LinkedIn. Here we are. By the way, here's the post that I put up just a little bit earlier, and we'll see. You can unconnect with somebody if you want to. They do not get a message, okay, that you've unconnected. However, if they know that you used to be connected and they go look at their first level connections and don't find you, then they would know that you have unconnected, okay? But they don't get a message that you've done that. And you can do that if you want to or need to for some reason, okay? All right, so actually, you know what? I jumped ahead too quickly. Okay, so let's go back here. So we're gonna talk about connections right now. First question is, who should I connect with? And there's kind of two extremes here. Over on the left, these are people who say, I'm only gonna connect with those that I have worked with and can vouch for, okay? So they might end up with a couple hundred first level connections, all right? Oops, previous. Over on the right here, we have what are called LinkedIn Open Networkers. Sometimes next to a name, you see LION, L-I-O-N, LinkedIn Open Networker. These are people who will connect with anyone and anything. As I say when I do my workshops with students, anything that crawls on the ground, it doesn't matter how many legs it has, okay? As long as it appears to be breathing. Okay, so these are the folks who end up with 10,000 connections, all right? Now, most of us are somewhere in the middle. And you want to think about who do you want to have as first level connections? And the answer to that can change, all right? It's changed for me at different points in my career. So right now, just as an example, I'm not saying these should be your criteria, but these are my criteria for first level connections. One, anyone that I know personally or professionally, unless there's some reason I don't want to connect with them. Two, anyone in my field, anywhere in the world, however I choose to define my field, okay? So obviously that's going to give me a lot of depth within what I consider my field, all right? Three, because of my role here, alumni, students, faculty, staff of LaSalle University. And four, anyone else that can convince me it's a good idea to connect. And that's it, okay? But with that, I have a couple thousand connections. Now, I never set out to have that, okay? But over time, just as I've connected with people that meet those criteria, that's where I've gotten to. So you want to think about who you should connect with. So rather than like specific names, what would be some of the types of people that you would want to have as first level connections? Feel free to speak up or type in the chat box, whichever you prefer. What types of people do you want to have as first level connections? And if you're speaking, be sure that you don't have a red line through your microphone, okay?
Or some things that they're involved in, either with projects, volunteer projects, boards, or work that they're doing.
Okay, somebody was speaking, but it was really hard to hear what you had to say, so maybe type it in the chat box. So people I know personally within my field. Okay, so you want to be sure you actually know them. Okay, former classmates, yeah. Colleagues at my organization or previous organizations. People in your target company, exactly. When we look at inviting people to connect, we'll talk about how to message that. But people you'd like to connect with based on their experience, on what they've done, or where they've worked, or what their career journey has looked like. Any of those kinds of things, exactly, all right? So, yes, think about who you want to have as first level connections. Any questions on that? Disruptors or pioneers in the industry, people smarter than me. I love that, Ron, exactly. Sometimes those folks are called thought leaders, okay? And so who are the key thought leaders? Maybe you have never met them in person, but you know that they are those disruptors or those pioneers in your field. And they're great to connect with. If I see, like at a conference, even if I don't go to the conference, but I see there's a speaker on a topic that interests me, I'll invite that person to connect. And I'll just say, hey, I see you spoke at, or you're going to speak at so-and-so. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but I'd love to connect with you because I'm really interested in that topic. Okay, so now we are going to go to LinkedIn and talk about inviting people to connect and how do you respond to people who've invited you to connect. All right, so let's go to LinkedIn here. And let me just check my notes here. Okay, so I'm going to say that I met a very interesting woman recently, and I come to LinkedIn and I search for her. I'm able to find her profile. I believe Denise, you're on the call with us here on the webinar. And so I scroll through. All right. I scroll through and say, yeah, this is somebody I'd like to connect with, okay? Now, in her case, she's an LaSalle alum, okay? So that's a good enough reason for me to want to connect with her. But maybe for others of you, it might be either because of where she's currently working, okay? Or the role that she has, or her own career progress, or anything else you might learn about her, okay? So she actually has already invited me. You see here where it says accept. So she's invited me to connect. So if I want to, I can just click here and accept her request. Boom, we're connected. All right, so now I have to find somebody else. All right, let me find someone else to invite to connect. Let me see here. These are all first levels. I don't want that. I didn't prepare for, let's see here. All right, I'm going to I'm going to pick a name. I'll show you. I thought these are all first levels too. Okay. I'm not looking out finding people that aren't already, oh, here we go. Okay, so let's say I was at a meeting and I met Mary. We had a great conversation. I'd like to connect with her on LinkedIn. This wasn't a good choice either because I've already invited her. Okay, well anyway, I don't want to waste your time. So I would go to her profile and then I would see a box here that says connect. And I would click that. If I don't see a box that says connect, just click here where it says more, and then you'll see connect and you'll want to click that. Now I'm having difficulty finding someone to connect with, but while I'm looking for one, just to show you as an example, okay, I want you to find someone to connect with. Now, if you're not connected to me, okay, you can go to my profile. When you click connect, don't automatically invite me. I want you to personalize your invitation to me, okay? All right. So let me show you what I mean. Here's Stephen. I'm going to pretend this is somebody I want to connect with. I click here where it says connect. I don't want to just use LinkedIn's default invitation. I want to personalize it. So I click there. And now I'm going to craft a message, okay? Stephen, it was great to chat with you 2 days ago at the such and such an event. I especially appreciated your comments on so-and-so. Would you be interested in connecting on LinkedIn? And then my full name, Deborah Franke. I always like, unless I know the person really well, I always like to add that, would you be interested in connecting? Would you like to connect on LinkedIn, okay? So obviously, depending on how well you know the person, if it's someone that I've never met, but they're in my field, I might say something like, Stephen, I'm always looking to grow my network of career development professionals working with alumni in higher ed. Would you be interested in connecting? Okay, so I've never met the person, but I let them know why I'm interested in connecting with them. So I want each of you to find someone to invite to connect and go ahead and invite them. And if you have any questions while you're doing that, so now I don't know Stephen, so I'm not going to invite him. You'll see you have 300 characters. okay, in that invitation, and LinkedIn will let you know when you get to 0. So you can't write a major treatise. And my suggestion would be, sometimes I see people in their invitation to connect, they'll also request something. Do you have advice on blah, 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 blah? I would suggest keeping those separate, okay? Just make this an invitation to connect. So let me know in the chat box that you've completed that you invited someone. Let me know if you have any questions while you do that. Feel free to invite me if we're not already first level. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna have a bunch of invitations showing up. That's great. Anybody having any questions or any problem while you're finding someone to connect with? Okay, now, not everyone will accept your request. Okay? Slow launching LinkedIn while streaming video. Yes, so Ron, you don't know how, there's 2 reasons why someone that I can think of, someone's not gonna connect with you. One is you don't know how active they are on LinkedIn, okay? The second is you don't know what their criteria are for first level connections. So maybe you're open to connecting with anyone in your field anywhere in the world, but they're only open to connecting with people that they've actually worked with, okay? So you don't know what their criteria are. So not everyone that you invite will connect with you. And don't take it personally, okay? So how do you see who's invited you and who you've invited that hasn't accepted? You click here where it says My Network, okay? And initially, we're gonna see the ones that have invited you to connect, okay? So here's Ron. Hi, Deborah. We're actively in a Zoom webinar right now, okay? I could just go ahead and accept, but I always like to send a message before I accept, all right? So I'm gonna send him a quick message. Ron, great to connect. Thanks for the invite. And actually, when it's an alum, I have some other information that I typically send. But Ron, I will send that separately, okay? If it's someone I don't know, I might say, great to connect, thanks for the invite. Is there any specific way I can be of assistance? And sometimes then that leads to a conversation, okay? So now I'm gonna send Ron his message and I'm going to accept his invitation. Now, what if there's someone here and I'm not sure I want to accept the invitation, okay, but I want to send a message? You can do that. So here where it says see all, okay, here are the received ones. And on any of these, okay, so if I wanted to, and I've done this, if I wanted to send a message to Richard, okay, I could click here and send him a message. Now here's the message I sent him, okay? I normally connect with people I know and those in my field. If there's a specific reason you'd like to connect, let me know. He responded and I was able to respond to that, okay? So you can message people without having to connect with them if they've invited you to connect. From here, like Victoria, I know Victoria, I'd probably send her a message and then I would accept it, okay? So there's a couple different ways and places that you can accept connections. But if you want to send a message, okay, to someone who's invited you to connect, you have to come here. You can also see who you have sent invitations to, okay? Because I invite a lot of alumni to connect with me, that's why I have so many here, okay? But you can see the I always personalize my message, even if it's just to say this. So that is the My Network. And then see all, okay? If you don't want to connect with someone, all right? So Chris, I asked him if there's a specific reason. If he doesn't get back to me within a month, okay, then I click ignore and we are not connected. Are there any questions on any of that? Any questions? I want to check my chat here, just a moment. Chat. Okay. So Leslie, I've always been hesitant to accept from someone who I don't know or isn't connected to someone I know. Yeah, I understand that. That's why if you know what your criteria are, it makes it much easier to decide whether to accept or not. You take a look at their profile. Are they in your field? Are you open to, let's see, are they in your field, and are you open to connecting with people you don't know but that are in your field, okay? So I've ignored even a former coworker I'd bad encounters. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might not want to connect with somebody. You get to decide though. Nobody's forcing you, okay? All right, so Victoria say, hey, anybody, you can connect with me. So yes, feel free to reach out to anyone that's on this webinar here. Okay, any questions on connections? I think if you take nothing away from this webinar, please take away my strong recommendation to always personalize, okay? Here's Marcia, okay? She personalized her request. And so I can see why she is interested. Now you'll see she combined her request to connect with a question for me, okay? So I will respond to her and I will say, Marcia, I'd be glad to connect, and let's set up a time for a phone call to discuss your questions. All right. But again, I have a much better idea of why she's interested in connecting because she took the time to personalize it. Okay, last chance. Any questions? All right. So now we're going to talk about LinkedIn groups. And to do that, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint briefly. So why join LinkedIn groups? Great way for keeping up with, again, trends, hot issues, current topics in your field. Depending on the nature of the group, you might learn about events that interest you, webinars, in-person events, whatever. It's also a great way to get noticed amongst fellow professionals in your area or areas of interest. And groups is a way to reach out to people who don't know you and who you don't have a first level connection or a second level connection with, because you can message anyone you share a group with, unless they've changed their settings to not allow that. LinkedIn does limit this to 15 per month for all groups combined. So let's take, we're going to talk briefly here about the types of groups, and then I'm going to go and show you a few things about groups. So what kinds of groups are there? Well, many professional associations have a LinkedIn group. So there's a professional association called the Social Media Association, and they have a LinkedIn group, okay? In some cases, you have to be a member of that professional association to be in the LinkedIn group. But in many, many cases, you don't need to be a member of the professional association to be in the LinkedIn group, but your profile needs to have something to do with what that group is about. There are tons and tons of professional groups on LinkedIn that aren't necessarily connected to a specific professional association, but somebody started a group and said, hey, I'd like to get people together who are interested in digital marketing, okay? There's some very specialized groups, and I just picked one here as an example of that. There are alumni groups, and you all want to be part of, a member of the LaSalle University Explorer Network. There are companies or organizations that have groups. Sometimes those are limited just to current and past employees of the company, but sometimes they're open to anyone interested in that organization. There are different kinds of what I call employment groups, okay? So groups that post jobs and job openings in particular fields. And then there are interest groups. So maybe you're into snowboarding, and so you join the ski, surf, and snow LinkedIn group, okay? Similar to a Facebook group that you might join. Any comments or questions about what kinds of groups are out there. All right, you're a quiet bunch. All right, so now we're going to go to LinkedIn and talk about groups. Okay, how do you find groups? Well, one way, as I mentioned, is so here's that social media association. Okay, and if we scroll down, I don't know where to go. They follow us on Twitter. I found it before. They have oh, here it is. Here it is. So scroll around on the your professional association website, okay? And there's the LinkedIn symbol, so I click on that. This takes me to the organization which is a company page, okay? But in many cases, if you click the About tab, you will then, over on the right here we go, oops, featured groups. So here is the LinkedIn group that is hosted by that particular professional association, okay? So once you get to a group page like this, you can see that there's 199 people in the group. There's some information about it, okay? What else? You can see who in this case, the owner, so she probably started the group. And if there are other managers of the group, they would be listed over here also. So if you want to join the group, pretty obvious, you click Request to Join. Now, depending on how the group is set up, you may get into the group right away if anybody can join the group, but in many cases, the owner and managers, if there are managers, will decide whether or not to let you in the group, because obviously they want to keep this group just for people interested in social media, right? In-house and at agencies. So how is Hillary going to decide, if you request to join this group, how is Hillary going to decide whether to let you in or not? All right, exactly. Hillary's going to go to your profile. And there's nothing on there about social media. She's going to decline your request to join the group. Okay. Some groups have slightly different names. For instance, yes, in LaSalle, there were many groups started by alumni. And when I first came into my position in 2011, I spoke with some of those group owners, two of whom agreed to close their groups, but one of whom didn't. So we have LaSalle University Alumni and LaSalle University Explorer Network. And so one of those is managed by an alum, and the LaSalle University Explorer Network is managed by myself. So we can't combine groups, but we can close a group and encourage members there to join another group. Good question. So yes, so Hillary will look at your profile to decide whether to let you into a group. Okay, so one way to find groups is through professional associations. Another really easy way to find a group is using the search box up here. So let's say I'm a public health professional. I type in the keyword public health, okay? And I don't want people or jobs or content. I want groups that have those two words. If I put it in quotes, it forces LinkedIn to look for that phrase, okay? And there's only 2,559 LinkedIn groups that have the phrase public health in the title or the description. But obviously it's gonna, I think it usually lists them largest to smallest, although that doesn't, this obviously isn't the case here. But this is clearly the largest. It's also associated with a professional association. If you're interested in global public health, maternal and reproductive health, maybe this is the group you want to join. And so again, you can go, you can read a little bit about it. You'll see, if you have any first level connections in that group, you'll see who they are here. You can click see all and see everyone who's a first level connection in that group, okay? And again, oops, If there's a group that you get to and want to join, you would click request to join. So what I'd like you all to do now is use the search box to find a LinkedIn group that interests you and go ahead and request to join it. And let me know if you have any questions. And type in the search box when you have requested to join a group while I grab a little tea. All right. A couple more. Find a group, request to join it. Use the search box, put in a word or phrase. If it's a phrase, you might want to put the phrase in quotes to make sure LinkedIn looks for that exact phrase. Be sure you select, when you do that search, be sure that you select groups. You're unable to find the more drop-down box. Okay. So if you click in the search box here, you get these options across here. People, jobs, content, whatever. If you click groups, then whatever you type in the box here, okay? So let's say marketing, then it's just gonna give you LinkedIn groups with that word. Were you able to do that, Denise? Got it, okay. So there's a couple more of you. Let me know you found a group and you requested to join. Okay. So another way to find groups is when you are looking at a profile of someone in your field, someone who has interests that you have, scroll down and see what groups they're in. So here's Lynn Williams. She does LinkedIn workshops here in the Philadelphia area. I've attended her workshops. And so I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom in the interest section. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. She's got more than 6 interests, so I'm going to click See All. I can click Groups, and now I see what LinkedIn groups Lynn is in. And that might give me some ideas of groups I might want to join, okay? So we've talked about the 3 ways to find groups, principally through professional associations, using the search box, and then looking people that you find on LinkedIn in your field, seeing what groups they're in. Now, how do you get to your LinkedIn groups? You click on this weird 9 square symbol where it says work, and then click groups. And you will see all the groups that you're in. And I'm going to go to one of mine. Maybe, if I can find it. Okay. I was just looking at it earlier. And I can't find it. All right, so we're going to pick a different one. We'll pick this one here. My career transitions. So I am in this group. I just want to show you kind of once you join a group, okay, a couple things. So you can adjust if you want to leave a group once you're in it, you click on the 3 little dots, okay. If something weird's happening in the group, you can report it to LinkedIn. The little cogwheel thing, you can change some settings, okay. So can group members in your extended network message you? This is that feature where if you share a group with someone, you can message them unless they've set this to no. And do you want your group to show up on your profile? So I can think of 2 cases where you might not want your LinkedIn group to show up. One is maybe there's an area of interest and you're in a LinkedIn group. You know, you collect antique toys, but it has nothing to do with who you are as a professional, but you want to be in that LinkedIn group. So you might want to be in the group, but not have the logo for that group showing up at the bottom of your profile. So you would set this to no, okay? So it's not going to appear on your profile for non-group members. The other situation is if you're currently working somewhere and actively looking for a new position elsewhere. Maybe you're in a bunch of job search related groups and you don't want those showing up on your profile. You want to be in the group, but you don't want it showing up on your profile. And then again, you wouldn't want the logo to show up, okay? So, let me go back here. Okay, so that's by clicking the cogwheels how you can change that. And then down the middle here is the group news feed. And so somebody in the group has posted, okay? And so you can scroll through and see some of the things that they've posted. Here's an example where Regina posted something that Fort Myers had posted somewhere else, okay? Here's George Schoenwolf, and he's talked about a presentation done by Dave Bontempo. I know who Dave is, and so I might want to comment on that. And if I want to comment, I just click comment. You know, Dave's a great guy and has wonderful insights, so glad to see that he was able to present to the career networking group, okay? And then I would post it, something like that. So my number one suggestion, once you join a group, you can be in, I think it's now 100 groups. You're not going to be active in 100, okay? Pick 3, 4, 5 at the most that you're going to be active in. Go in once a day, once a week. Scroll through, okay? So here's a free webinar on the power of pull marketing in your job search. Wow, I actually know Ford. He does excellent webinars. So any of you that are in a job search, I would definitely recommend this to you, okay? So my number one suggestion, rather than you starting a new post, okay, comment on things other people have posted, all right? So here, Regina's posted this, so maybe I read the article and then I comment, hey, Regina, thanks for posting this. Really interesting to see how many of the fastest growing companies in Greater Philadelphia are in the such and such an industry, okay? I knew that was probably true, but this just proves it. Whatever, okay? Now, Regina is going to get an email that I commented on a post she made. What do you think Regina is going to do when she gets that email? Okay, so Regina's going to read what I said, okay? She may reply to what I said, so we could have a conversation going here. She may reply privately, and she may very well look at my profile, okay? So by commenting on things other people have posted, you begin that engagement, and you begin to be known within whatever that community is that's in that particular group. Okay, so that's why I recommend. Because of changes LinkedIn has made to groups, you have to intentionally go in, like I did here, and see what people have posted in order to comment. Now, your group, what's happening in your groups will also show up on your homepage. So if you get in the habit of clicking on your homepage and taking just 5 minutes to scroll through, you'll see the most recent posts in all your groups. But if you're in a ton of groups like me, it's probably more effective to have 3 or 4, as I said, 5 at the most, that you're active in, and you are making the choice to come into the group on a regular basis. And I always just say, let me go into a couple of my groups today, and I'm going to comment on at least 1 post in each of 4 groups. And I'm going to do that on a regular basis, okay? Over time, I get known by the people in that group because I'm making those posts, those comments. All right, any questions? So groups are also a great way. Let's say, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example here. There's a first level. Okay, here's Cindy. So she posted something. Maybe I go and I look at her profile based on what I see there, okay? I'd like to have a conversation with Cindy and learn more about what she does for Penn State. are particularly interested. Oh, it looks like maybe I lost my sharing. Click to share screen. Okay, share. All right, you should see Cindy again now. Let me just make sure chat. Okay. Yep, back to sharing. Okay, thanks everybody. I want to get a message to Cindy. Now, she's a second level, so I could go through my first level. In her case, because she works here, I could probably just go to the website and do a search for her name and find her. But let's pretend I don't have any of those options, okay? But I know Cindy and I share a group or one or more groups. It tells me right here. So anytime you're on someone's profile, if you share a group with them, LinkedIn tells you that you share a group. Tells you right here, okay? And I can click here and I can see all the groups that we share. And I can go to any one of these and look for Cindy. So here's another group. This is actually the one I was looking for earlier. So this is what you have to know. To send a message to someone in the group, you click here where it tells you the number of members. It's not obvious that's what you have to do. You click there, and now I remember her name. Here we go. And I can do a search. It was C-I-N-D-I. Here she is. I can click here where it says message, and I can now send Cindy a message because we share a group. So I hope this has shown you some of the usefulness of groups, even though with changes LinkedIn, they are less effective for engagement and conversation than they used to be. But they're still potentially a pretty powerful tool for you to build connections with people. So in this case, you know, Cindy, I see that you're in the such and such LinkedIn group. And I'd be really interested in chatting with you to learn more about the work you do at Penn State SMEAL and tell you about some professional development opportunities in the Philly area. Would you be open to a 10 to 15-minute phone call? Okay. Now, LinkedIn limits this to 15 per month from all your groups combined. So 15 of these messages through the group, but it can be a great way of getting a message to someone that you don't have any other way to get a message to them. Okay, well, as usual, I'm running out of time. And we've just like scratched the surface here. So what I'm gonna do is quickly show you a few searches that you can do on LinkedIn, and then in part 2, we'll pick up on searches and then talk about your profile. So we've already talked about how to search for a group. I've shown you a little bit how to search for a person. You put their name in, but what if their name is John Smith? Okay, there's only, oops, it helps to spell it right. Okay, John Smith, no. Okay, there's only 143,000 John Smiths on LinkedIn. But I know this John Smith lives in the Philadelphia area. So I could use this location one, or I can click here, all filters, and it takes me to these people filters. And so I know he's in the Philadelphia area, or I know he's in the New York area, whatever. I type it in, I select it, I click apply, and now the good news, there's only 1,734 John Smiths in Philadelphia. Oh, but I know he's a LaSalle alumnus. So that's going to really help me. Or I know what company he currently works at. So I know he currently works at Goldman Sachs, okay? Or some company, if it doesn't show up here, he works at Verizon. So I start typing in Verizon, and then I select it from here, okay? And I might want to do Verizon and Verizon Business. Now, I don't know if there's any John Smiths at Verizon, but let's go ahead in the Philadelphia area. But we'll try, and actually there aren't, okay? But it was worth giving it a try. Let's see if I can, yeah, okay, so we're back to, so, oh, John, I met him at an alumni event. He's an alum, okay? So I can come here now in those people search tools and start typing LaSalle University, select it from the drop-down menu. What you need to know is that we're also in here as LaSalle University School of Business Administration. It has to do with the federal government list that LinkedIn used when it set up its internal list of colleges and universities. So you need to be sure and select both of these, click apply, and boom, now I'm down to one John Smith. Ah, that's the one I met, okay? So you can use these people filters to narrow your results down. I'm going to show you one more thing before we finish up here. Somebody give me the name of a company that interests you. You shout it out or type it in the chat box. Accolade, okay. ACC, so I'm going to type it in my search box. Okay. Now it's showing up right here. Do you know which one it is? The health wellness or the marketing and advertising? The health wellness. Okay, this one here. So it's showing up. If it didn't show up, I would just hit my enter key, and then right here I'm going to select companies. So I just want companies with that, and then here it is. Fairly small company. Okay. 34 employees on LinkedIn. So if I want to narrow my results down, whoops, I could click here, and this would give me those same people filters, okay? Or I could come over here and click where it says people, and LinkedIn gives me 6 columns of data, okay? Where they live, where they studied, I use the next button, what they do, what they studied. So here LinkedIn is analyzing the current job title. Here LinkedIn is analyzing the education section, what they're skilled at, and how you're connected. The cool thing about this, let's say I want the 3 people in human resources. I can click on that, and now I just see those 3 results. I can scroll down, okay, and see those people there. So quick view of company search. We're going to finish things off for now, and we're going to pick up searches in part 2, which is going to be in 2 weeks. I'll send you a link so you can be sure that you've registered for that, and we'll also be talking about your profile. Okay, so if there's any other questions, feel free to stay on. I'm going to stop the recording, and